There are two things that hold true in the world of competitive gaming. Firstly, tilting is bad and it makes you play worse. When you lose control of your emotions, you stop using the part of your brain that's smart and can turn a close game into a loss and a loss into a losing streak. The second thing is that the best competitive gamers tend to get very emotional over their games. Doesn't make much sense, does it? In any competitive game, you'll find instances of some of the best players getting angry, getting emotional, lashing out. Just take a look at some of these high-level League of Legends players.
Right through the Counter-Strike! Oh, I fucking love it! It's like having fun, except go fucking kill yourself, Riot. Just go fucking kill yourself.
Here comes Anybot! Here comes Anybot! The most retarded human being on the server! He lost me over 10 games on this account, but no one bats an eye. He is literally the worst player ever. Open, please. Please report this dipshit again. I report him every game, but you can't tell he's trolling. He's just fucking the worst player ever.
Tyler, you fucking suck dick. Can't mute your feed, you fucking moron.
Of course, there are players who are cool and level-headed and can handle flame better than a Buddhist monk. But these are the exceptions, not the rule. But if you ask around, you'll hear people left and right preaching the benefits of staying calm and avoiding tilt. So why is it that so many high-level gamers seem to contradict that very notion? These people tilt, they flame, they get upset, but they still go on to be the best. Well, I think to understand, we have to go to the root of tilt. Let's look at the now infamous "just a game" tweet from Ninja. The phrase "it's just a game" is such a weak mindset. You are okay with what happened. Losing, imperfection of a craft. When you stop getting angry after losing, you've lost twice. There's always something to learn, and always room for improvement. Never settle. So I know this has been memed to hell and back, but I think a lot of the people who criticize him for this are missing one key factor. They are arguing from the perspective of a more casual type of gamer, but Ninja is anything but casual. Now, you may know him for his unprecedented success as a streamer, but he got that fame in part by being a very good Fortnite player. I don't follow the Fortnite scene at all, but I hear he's one of the top players of the game. For him, Fortnite is not just a game, it's what built his career, and he only got to the top by taking it seriously and not accepting failure. When he made that tweet, he was talking about the competitive perspective and the drive you need to not only be the best, but to beat the best. That is very different from someone who just plays games for fun. And it's that drive, that motivation that I want to hone in on. To get that level of investment in anything, not just esports, you need to care. You need to want it. Refusing to accept failure as an option and pushing yourself to the next level is how you achieve that level of success. And when you care that much, you get upset when you fall short of the standard you've set for yourself. That means you get upset when things don't go your way, and you may well lash out because of it. You can be aggressive when you care. But there's a fine line between aggression and toxicity. They are not the same thing, though they do share some similarities. And it further muddies the waters that some high-level players can have that drive while also being toxic. When a player fumes and swears up a storm, that's usually just letting out some of that aggression. When Chinese League player Vasily screamed at and allegedly hit his girlfriend on stream after a bad game, that's really fucking toxic. Not to mention entirely unacceptable. But because actual toxicity can be shown alongside the aggression of a passionate player, it can sometimes be hard to see the difference between the two. When the average casual gamer looks at Ninja's tweet, they don't understand that he's talking from the perspective of someone who has that drive to succeed and to improve. They don't see it because they don't personally have it, and they cannot instinctively empathize with that mindset. What they see is essentially a lower level of toxicity. To them, sure, he's not doing anything horrific or putting anyone down specifically, but he's still displaying a toxic elitist mindset. But on the flip side, Ninja himself likely doesn't instinctively understand the perspective of a casual gamer, or at least he wasn't thinking that way at the time. I'm sure that the idea that someone would be an avid gamer and yet not have that drive to succeed is completely alien to him. So I think that his tweet was poorly worded, and because of that, the reaction to it was inevitable. But I don't think Ninja was being toxic. I just think that his point was to take every opportunity to improve, and that failure is just that, failure, and failure is not a good thing. So now let's get back to actual toxicity. There are some high-level players who are legitimately toxic. The example I gave of Vasily allegedly hitting his girlfriend was obviously an extreme example, but you can find many examples of behavior I'd personally consider toxic. Pro player Jensen was once given a competitive ban for generally abusive behavior and for using DDoS attacks against opponents. pro streamer Tyler1, who peaked at rank 5 in North America, has a history of heavy flame and of intentionally throwing games when he got upset. Professional shoutcaster Freak has even admitted to having used racial slurs on a regular basis towards other players in the past.
Like, when I first started playing League of Legends, I called people N-bombs! I was a terrible person! I was horribly toxic when I first started playing League.
Now, I'm not trying to shit-talk any of these individuals. In fact, I chose them as examples specifically because each of them have made personal changes and have become better people in the process. But my point stands that these accomplished players were at one point pretty toxic, and they're far from the only ones. I personally think there are two big factors that play into this. Firstly, there's the fact that top-level players simply have more visibility. Most of the players who dominate the leaderboards of any popular game tend to either be signed to an esports organization or are a full-time streamer. While toxicity exists at all levels of play, those at the top are under a higher level of scrutiny simply due to the sheer amount of eyes on them. When one of them screws up, a lot of people will see it and more will hear about it. If, for example, I were to do or say something awful, chances are it would only be the people in my game who would ever even know about it. So even though I do think there's a bit of a correlation there, I also think that public perception of the toxicity of high-level players is amplified and they end up appearing worse than they actually are. The second factor is that the intense drive for success and a toxic, tilt-worthy mindset both stem from the same thing: emotional investment in personal performance. When you're really invested in the outcome of your game, it can easily manifest into a focused dedication, but it can also lead to a greatly increased frustration at those you perceive to be impeding your forward movement. Typically speaking, one of these two mindsets will win out if you push enough. Either you'll get that focus and go on to greatly improve, or you'll be a toxic asshole. But at the same time, you can have a mixture of both. Going back to the example of Vasily, he clearly had serious issues with toxicity and anger management. However, he was also a professional player and was fairly well respected for his skill, which can only come from having that level of dedication that comes with positive aggression. I personally think that it takes an extraordinary level of self-control to focus and hone that passion into a drive for success and not let it devolve into toxicity. And I truly believe that being too toxic serves only to your detriment as a player. It all goes back to that idea of tilt. When you get too upset and your emotions control you rather than the other way around, you're more likely to play worse and more likely to be toxic. This is because the more tilted you get, the more the rational part of your brain starts to shut down and the more that your lizard brain, the part responsible for base instincts such as fight or flight, takes over. Your lizard brain is not a good gamer and it does not know how to win. It makes you want to lash out and act impulsively. This will lead to reckless decision-making and can easily drive you to do and say hurtful things. Players at the highest level of their chosen game all have that passion and desire to win and be the best. That emotion drives them to levels that most of us, and I'm including myself there, can never hope to achieve. But that emotion is also the catalyst for an unfocused, destructive, toxic mindset. To have the good is to risk the bad, and that is why I believe so many of the best can also be examples of some of the worst. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. I upload every Monday, so make sure to check back in next week. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter at AdsTweets for updates and memes, and follow me on Twitch at AdsGames. I haven't been streaming that much lately because I've been working a whole lot, but I'll be sure to pick that up again once work slows down. And as always, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next Monday.
Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no